Hello, good afternoon. My name is Manuel Marquez, and I'm a student of the University of Los Andes. I'm presenting my internship report titled Discovering Professional Competencies in the Field of Educational Materials Development. This is the result of my internship carried out last year in 2020 at Fundación Proyecto Fábula. It's a nonprofit organization that is based in Colombia, in Bogota specifically, and it's oriented to promote literature and to promote reading in Colombian children, mostly in rural areas where children do not have access to books or this kind of materials. Fundación Proyecto Fábula has different lines of education. Let's say I was involved in I Love English project, in the I Love English project, sorry, which is basically a project to expose children to the English language, and I was given the task to create some Google Slides presentation. There were in the end about 27 more or less presentations that they had each around 95 slides, and there were in the end about 27 long presentations, and we had some short presentations that basically were completed after our first project, our first activity had to change due to the pandemic that started last year. There were some changes in the project, so basically I was given the task to do some long presentations and some short presentations for a sub-project within I Love English, which is that was basically to share some slides via WhatsApp to the teachers and children. So I'm going to give you the details and how the activities were performed in this internship. I included some preliminary remarks regarding the experience. I included as well some slides to give you an idea how the presentations looked like. And I included as well in this presentation some comments regarding my cultural essay on Ireland's national language identity, and finally some suggestions and recommendations for the host institution and also for the Universidad de Los Andes. So let's start. Now on slide 2, I'm giving you some preliminary remarks regarding this internship. The first one is that the internship was not the first choice. And this is important because in some way became part of my internship. I had first the idea to write a dissertation in Italian, and this thesis was basically oriented to find out how students of the University of Los Andes start teaching without any teacher training. I realized after some semesters that we students will start teaching and we do not have some teaching training or experience, and after we start when we start looking for opportunities and positions, basically this is the one that we have. And I said, okay, maybe this is an important topic to research, do a research. And after some months here in Colombia, basically I was working, I was doing a lot of things. I realized that I did not have enough time to do such a project. And I met Professor Perez again here in Bogota, and I talked with her about my idea. She said, sorry, maybe we can continue with this, but after maybe you can do an internship. And I said, okay, perhaps it's time to do the internship. I met Olga Forero, the director of the Fundación Proyecto Fábula, and she told me about the activities, and I said, well, this looks this looks like a good place to do the internship. And then I was given the tasks and the activities that I needed to do. So this basically now I'm going to the second remark here, that is basically the apparent lack of skills, because when I was talking with Olga Forero, the director, I realized that in some way I did not have the proper skills to accomplish the goals, because the first issue that I found was basically that the idea was not to teach English, let's say, And I said, okay, maybe if this is teaching, I can do that. I'm not really, I don't have the proper experience, or I do not have the proper skills, but I can do that. I have the language, I have the languages, in this case English. And but then I was told that the idea was not to teach, was not to provide children structures, because they don't know English. The idea is basically to expose children to the English language through literature. And I said, okay, I have some knowledge in literature, but I don't have experience with children. So to be concise, I dealt with some apparent lack of skills regarding professional competencies, because I studied French and Italian, so they were not languages I needed for this internship. The idea was not to teach English, and I said, okay, perhaps this is not the job for me. But after this is the third remark here. After I spoke with my advisor, I was given some literature regarding how educational materials are created, how educational materials are conceived. I said, okay, I need to use a different approach to this internship, and that basically led me to the let's say the part in which I started creating the material, reading the literature, and all this stuff. And I said, I have all the competencies that are intrinsic to my formation as professional in modern languages. And I said, okay, we can do that. So now I'm going to the slide 3, which is basically the internship stages and process. And I have used this chart in order to give you an idea about how the presentation stages were. So basically, there were like 4 stages for these tasks: a reading, a creating, a revision, and a development stage. In the first stage, I had to read and to recognize all the topics and needs for designing the material. So basically, I was given different books, children literature, and I had to read all these books and to let's say keys, vocabulary, grammar, and other things that I needed to use in the material that I was going to create. The material basically was a Google Slides presentation. In the end, there were about 28 long presentations, because basically we have two presentations. The original presentations were a Google Slide presentation based on the book, on the literature. In that presentation had around 97 slides, and there were other short presentation, let's say, that taken from the original presentation, but this was used after we have to change our plans because of the pandemic that started last year, and that in some way changed our ideas. So there were 2 types of presentation, but for both of them, I needed to recognize the topics and need to design a syllabus for the vocabulary, for the, let's say, the small grammar units that I was going to cover, to explore within that material. I needed to identify the vocabulary and the grammar targets in order to follow a path, and not to to start jumping within different topics in the process of creating all the materials, because there were different books. So after I had, let's say, like the first stage that was reading, I had to create the material. But basically in this part there was a significant issue. That is, I could not use all the books because the books were oriented to or were conceived for children that can read in English. So in some way I had to change the material, to adapt the material, let's say, to a content that Colombian children can understand, with the help of some hosts that basically they are girls from the University of Oxford, and they basically read the books or the material to the children. So I need to create the adaptation of the narrative. I need to construct the imagery bank and the illustration. There was an interesting part as well, because I got involved with all this illustration and narration work that I was not actually familiar with, and it was such a good experience now, looking and and discovering how illustration work with the narration. So after the creating part, I had to integrate the repeating and writing activities. You're going to see this in the next slide, but basically this is the idea was to have the presentation in which we have the book that is read by the host and the British girl. Then we have the repeating part that basically it's to read the book again, repeating some parts, and then we have some writing, a writing section which is basically for children to write some vocabulary specifically captured for children to give them some vocabulary that they can use in the end. And then as well, I had to listen to the audio recordings from the girls in Oxford because they sent us some recordings for the WhatsApp material was basically a different part. And in this part, the director had the first review of the material, and basically she told me, hey, we needed to change this or we needed to adapt this, because she had more experience in regards of how children can react to this material. So then we have the development part, that is basically the implementation of materials and the evaluation of the material and feedback, and that it was basically the sessions that I Love English carries out in different schools around Colombia. And okay, I need to move on, but then we can see in the slide 4, we have, this is the cover of a presentation. This is a book called Bedtime Stories. Look, that basically we included all this information in the cover of the books. This is only a slide of the whole material that is introduced in the book. So the books were not copyrighted, which was this basically allowed us to change or to adapt the material that was necessary for me, because I needed to make them more basic. So I needed to transform the vocabulary and to adapt the stories to something that that children here in Colombia can understand. So I'm going to slide 5. In the slide 5, in the fifth slide, this is basically let's say an image of the book, and here there are different symbols that we used in the presentations that were for children to understand. They already know how these symbols work. So there was a stage in the session in which they needed to listen first, they needed to repeat, they needed to write. Also, the square that we have let them know that they needed to repeat that specific part of the book. And for example, we have this phrase that is basically adapted from the book, and I needed to use some imagery that was basically not part of the book, not part of the original material, that was included, in the presentation for children to have a specific reference of the vocabulary used. So basically, when doing the presentation, it was interesting for me because I was understanding and recognizing some stuff regarding linguistics and literature. Let's say, for example, and regarding literature, the type of writing or the literature that I was using, in this case, literature for children, the vocabulary used, let's say in this case the reference, how the repeating and writing part needed to be linked to the story. So in the end, I realized that I was implementing for doing this activity basically some basic competencies that I have acquired in all the courses that I had in university. Now let's go to slide 6. Okay, I'm running out of time. So basically, this is the cultural essay on our Irish language and identity. We have, I can answer all your questions maybe you have on this. First, I have to say that in 2013, I had the chance to go to travel to Ireland and study English there for 6 months. And aside from the course that I undertook, I had the chance to live with Irish people, to share with Irish people, and there was a topic that I'm interested in, that is basically the how language and culture are interrelated. And in the case of Ireland, there were some um, aspects on culture that I included in the essay. Basically, that identity is both internal and external, and this is basically an answer to the question, "Who are you?" I did this exercise before writing writing the cultural essay. I asked my mom, "Who are you?" And my mom said first, "Okay." My mom said, I'm Venezuelan, I'm Colombian, I'm Claudia," like trying to give me an answer. And I said, "Okay, we have like a personal identity, we have as well a social identity, and it's interesting in the case of Ireland how language suits identity, which is basically the construction of the Irish society in regards of the language. In our case, maybe it's not that way because we speak Spanish. We do not speak, let's say, a proper local language. But in the case of Ireland, it's a bicultural society that speaks both English and speaks some Irish. Even though that English has, it's let's say it's well spread in the Isle and in the island, sorry. And well, for me, it was really interesting to know how people in there they construct their identity. After reading some literature, I could confirm the relation that basically it's present between language and identity, and how societies are constructed this way through language. In the case of Ireland, the national identity has played an important role in the construction of the national identity due to the nationalism, due to the language policies that have been implemented, due to the biculturalism society. So the case of Ireland, it's a really interesting case because in a global world in which English has, taken the first place in the international scenario, they are really strong and said that Irish is part of their identity, and it's included in different stuff, even in the constitution of the country. So as a conclusion, I could say that basically, as a professional in modern languages, we studied the linguistics aspects of a language, but as well we talking regarding social linguistics, we need to be aware as well that it's not only the linguistic part itself, but that the language plays always an important role in how people portrays themselves and how people identifies themselves in a society. And okay, I need to finish with the final suggestions and recommendations. I have only 3 here. The first is the workshop on educational materials. I think that it would be great for us to have some kind of workshop or educational, let's say, course on how we can create this type of materials, because it's not only for an internship like the one that I had, but it can be for other students. Maybe they can perform an internship in a different business or a different organization, and they are given the task to teach, let's say, to help people to learn English, not properly, maybe to teach English. So they will need to create a kind of educational material that would be great for us to have this in our curricula. And as well, since I'm a student that I did not take any professional course regarding translation or research or international relations, I think it's important for students that basically took a third language. In my case, I took Italian and French, to apply or to focus that specific knowledge in a field. I think it's really important because that basically that was part of my dissertation. But let's say that in the end we end teaching, but we don't have that proper teaching experience. And it's not that we cannot teach, but I think that maybe we can be given more resources in university to apply this in different scenarios. Let's say that including some language training or international business models for students of a third language, that would be fantastic from my perspective. And then finally, I included the I Love English project in Venezuela can be launched. I think it's really it's such a huge plan, and it's after I received the feedback, and I could see via WhatsApp how children react to the material I created. I think it's really, I know, it's fantastic, and it's really, I don't have the word. Well, it's amazing how children are happy, because of the material, and how we can contribute to their learning. So the suggestion would be for the host institution to keep the relations with the University of Los Andes, so we can, at least in a first stage, to allow students to be part of this project, and if it's possible to launch this now that basically everything it's carried out on internet. Maybe we can take a project for Venezuelan students. I know that the situation regarding internet and regarding connections in Venezuela are not the best, but this is like maybe an idea for future. Thank you so much for the time, and for basically evaluating this. I'll be ready for your questions, and well, thank you so much.